Yesterday, just hours before the original 2-week ceasefire was set to expire, President Trump announced an open-ended extension of the U.S.-Iran ceasefire via Truth Social, citing two primary reasons. First, he's fulfilling the personal request of Pakistan's Army Chief Field Marshal Hashim Munir and their Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, who are serving as mediators, and asked Washington to hold military action until Iran could come up with a unified proposal. And then secondly, Trump's own acknowledgement that Iran's government is, in his words, quote, seriously fractured and therefore incapable of producing a coherent negotiating position at this time. Now, critically, the U.S. naval blockade of Iranian ports continues in full force, and it is not part of the pause. CENTCOM confirmed 28 ships have now been turned around or returned to port since the blockade began on April 13th. Now, within hours of Trump's announcement of the extended ceasefire, Iran actually seized two vessels in the Strait of Hormuz, a Panama-flagged vessel and a Liberia-flagged vessel. Both ships were then escorted at gunpoint into Iranian territorial waters. Now, the latest is that the ceasefire, according to President Trump, is only going to last for the next few days. It's going to be temporary given how Iran continues to provoke oil tankers in the region, and Hormuz particularly. But in the end, it really doesn't matter what President Trump decides to do. That's what you have to get in all of this. As long as that boa constrictor-like blockade squeezes Iran, their already shattered economy loses nearly $500 million a day in oil revenue. And so that's why, by the way, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, he's calling this phase of the war Operation Economic Fury. As President Trump has made clear, the United States Navy will continue its blockade of Iranian ports, and Scott Bessent is warning that within a matter of days, Karg Island's oil storage is going to reach full capacity, at which point Iran's fragile oil wells will be forced to shut down entirely. While the Treasury Department simultaneously presses forward with its Economic Fury campaign to systematically degrade Tehran's ability to generate, move, and repatriate funds, threatening sanctions exposure on any person or vessel facilitating covert Iranian trade and finance flows, and pledging to continue freezing the assets stolen by the regime from the Iranian people. And that's absolutely key to the entire strategy here. Starving Iran means starving the regime. This is what a lot of the critics of the war don't get, okay? This isn't so much about making life hard for the average Iranian. Unfortunately, that is part of it. But the key objective here is to starve the regime of its capacity to maintain its security machine. It prevents the RGC soldiers from getting paid. It starves the regime of its capacity to export revenue to its regional proxies like Hezbollah and Hamas and the Houthis. And it promotes infighting among the regime over scarce resources. And that's exactly what President Trump alluded to there, that the regime is completely fractured. There is no single coherent comprehensive regime in place at the moment. There's only competing factions.